I am Professor History. I have been a student of history all of my life. I find it fascinating, the human perspective, the things we've done, the motivations, the changes over time throughout geography. I think history is one of the most important things because it gives us a heading on where we're going. There is a number of people in academia who don't want me to tell you the true history. I have been shunned by many of them. They would prefer to keep their schoolyard version of history rather than let you know the true, unbridled truth of how we got to here today. I was so surprised to find out the truth when I went out on my own study and doing the research, sharing the true information. I don't have an agenda, just the truth of it. Nothing more and nothing less. All right, so let's talk about the Puritans. Let's start there. The colonists in what would one day become the United States arrived on the Mayflower, having left England to find religious freedom in a brave new land. The glorious opening of that Hollywood blockbuster, America. Many Americans proudly trace their ancestry back to these lovers of freedom, these brave pioneers, these champions of religious freedom. Unfortunately, like almost everything, we have been systematically programmed to believe about the United States and its history. It just ain't true. The Mayflower was far from being the first ship to carry European colonists to what would become the U.S. Prior to the Mayflower's voyage, there were numerous attempts to colonize North America by Europeans, including at least 9 by the British, 5 of which were successful, and many others by the French and Spanish, and possibly some by the Scandinavians. None of the groups of British immigrants, including the Puritans, left Britain exclusively in order to escape religious persecution. They traveled to North America seeking economic advantage. The voyage of the Mayflower was, in fact, financed by a group of London investors who were to receive 60% of the profits of the colony in its first 6 years. The Puritans who stepped ashore instigated a reign of oppression and terror in the New World, which lasted for more than a century. Attendance at the only approved church twice every Sunday was mandatory. Those who refused were jailed. Those wearing clothing not approved by the zealots were jailed. Those labeled as atheists had holes burned through their tongues with red-hot irons by these lovers of Christ. In order to enforce universal obedience to what they claimed to be God's word, these much-lauded seekers after religious freedom also branded offenders with red-hot irons, hanging many and burning others alive at the stake. Quakers were hung for the crime of being Quakers. Women accused of adultery were branded. Those called witches by the Puritans were burned alive at the stake in large numbers. Far from seeking religious freedom, the Puritans' goal was to create an open prison in which only their own narrow, vicious zealotry and religious delusions were permitted, and in which their domination of society would be maintained through intimidation, terror, torture, and murder. I'm Professor History, and this is the way it really was.